Hello, everyone. Welcome back. So today we're going to be talking about if we should be reforming or abolishing the ATF, okay, alcohol, tobacco, and firearms, which we all know should be a convenience store, not a government agency. But before you all jump up and say abolish the ATF, there's a couple of things we got to understand here. Okay, if you abolish the ATF, right, you still have all these gun control laws still in place. What they're going to do is let's say they shut down the ATF, they're going to make the FBI do the job of the ATF. Okay, the FBI is just as corrupt, and they are a lot more well funded. Okay, um, they have more officers, they have more staff. They're going to be a lot more dangerous to us. Okay, they have the same ability to do 6 a.m. no knock raids and kill you. Okay, so you can't just say abolish the ATF and basically just basically take out the ATF and put the FBI in its place to do exactly what the ATF has been doing, except they're going to do it better. Okay, by better I mean worse for us. Okay, so you cannot just abolish the ATF unless you get rid of all the gun control laws. Okay, so that's where we are now. Looking at the makeup of the Congress, okay, it is a very slim margin. Okay, we're going to be lucky if we even get national reciprocity to pass. Okay, so it's a really thin margin. I don't think we're going to we're not going to repeal all the gun control laws that would allow for us then to abolish the ATF. Okay, so we got to be a little bit more, a little bit more strategic and do what's in our best interest here. Okay, so what makes a lot of sense, right, and what I think is actually doable, is to take away the law enforcement function of the ATF. Okay, so what I want is the ATF to be a bookkeeping agency. Okay, now when the ATF was originally founded, I mean, they were basically a tax collection agency. They were like the IRS. They were not a law enforcement agency. Okay, so we got to get the ATF back to being just a bookkeeping agency. Now, one of the things that the ATF does is they license FFLs so that we can buy guns. Okay, now, as the laws are right now, right, in order for us to buy guns from the manufacturers, right, or commercially, we have to get it from an FFL. So again, if you just abolish the ATF, what's going to happen is I think the licenses of the FFLs are going to expire within a year or two, whatever the term is, and they're not going to be able to renew them because there's no ATF, and that means they're not going to be able to sell you the guns that you want to buy. Okay, so again, we can't just abolish the ATF unless we get rid of all the underlying gun control laws that they are enforcing. Okay, so as long as we got laws in place that say that we have to that in order to buy guns commercially, we have to go through an FFL, and we need that ability to buy guns commercially. Because you might say, well, we'll just buy guns in the private market. Well, there's only so many guns in the private market, and if all we're doing is selling the guns that we already have back and forth, that doesn't increase the overall number of guns. Okay, so what we need to do, we need mass production of guns so that we can get guns into the hands of many people as possible, right? So more people have a vested interest in protecting the Second Amendment. So to do that, we need commercial sellers, and as the law is right now, we need FFLs, and FFLs basically need the ATF to do the paperwork so they can sell the guns legally. Okay, so what we want right now is the ATF to go back to just being a bookkeeping agency, no law enforcement. Okay, basically we want to disarm the ATF. We want to take their guns away, except for the security guard they got at the front door. We want to disarm the ATF. Okay, we want to keep the ATF in a separate building from the FBI. Okay, we don't want the ATF to be a subdivision of the FBI. We want them in a separate building, so that they're not having coffee together, they're not going out to lunch together, so that if some issue comes up that requires law enforcement, the ATF people, who are just bookkeepers, now have to reach out to the FBI, which are at a different location, and get this information to them, and it basically just slows things down a little bit, and gives everybody a chance to look in and see what's going on. Because if you've got different agencies interacting with each other, there's a better chance that if there's something going, if they're doing something wrong, somebody will see it, right? Rather than if everything's being done in the same building, right? Because again, if we just abolish the ATF, basically they're just going to remove the letters ATF from the building, and they're just going to put FBI on it, and you've got the same people doing the exact same thing, okay? So we do not want that. We want a separate ATF as a bookkeeping agency in a separate building with a lot of space between them and the FBI, okay? So one of the things that we want to get done is there's been issues in the past with the ATF keeping an illegal gun registry of gun owners. We want it written into law that they must destroy it, that it would be criminal for anybody to knowingly maintain such a gun registry. So that's one of the things that we want to write into this reformation. Okay, so there's no way for them to legally maintain a registry, and that there would be criminal penalties for anybody that does so. Okay. Now, as it is right now, FFLs have to keep their records for 20 years. We can change that to 5 years. So after 5 years, it would be legal for the FFLs to destroy their records, not give them to the ATF, destroy them. Okay, so again, this is a small thing that we can probably get through this Congress that has very slim margins. Okay, because again, in the Senate, in order for anything to pass the Senate, we need 60 votes, right? Yeah, we have the 50-vote majority, but they can filibuster it, which means basically filibustering traditionally meant that that somebody would get up and just talk nonstop and run out the time, okay? Because there is no time limit for speaking on the Senate floor. So in order to break that, right, to get somebody to shut up, you need 60 votes, okay? So that's what the whole idea of the 60-vote cloture comes in on. So we need 60 votes to allow something, to proceed on to the vote, to a vote in the Senate. And I think we got 53 senators right now. At least 2, maybe 3 of them are rhinos. And then on top of that, you got to try and get 7 Democrats to come over. So you got to target, basically Republican senators in blue states. It's hard, okay? So we gotta think small here in terms of try to get victories. Try to go after the victories that we can actually get, right? Rather than think pie in the sky and, after 2 years, we got absolutely nothing to show for. All right, so moving on. With the suppressors and the SBRs, instant approval, okay? There's no, if you can go to the gun store, get an instant background check, there's no reason why they can't do an instant approval for suppressors and SBRs, okay? So that's something that's reasonable. That's something that we can get changed. I did a separate video discussing, a separate law to try and get SBRs and suppressors out of the NFA. I've already talked about that. We'll talk about it towards the end of the video again. But as long as SBRs and suppressors need to be registered with the ATF, and even the Class 3 automatic weapons, we should be able to get instant approval. Okay, the sellers of these things should be able to submit an application, and it should get instantly approved. There's no reason why it shouldn't be approved, right? Unless there's actually a criminal record that comes up, okay? So they should be able to get instant approval on all the things that people are now waiting for months and a year, up to a year, to get approval on, okay? Written into law, okay? We need to spell out that the ATF has no power to make law. Okay, specifically their opinions mean nothing. They have to, basically they have to adhere to the law as strictly as it is written. Okay, so that's one of the things we want to put into this plan. Okay, and also put in there that either the individual or the FFL gets the benefit of the doubt. Okay, so if some issue comes up that's kind of gray, the individual or the FFL gets the benefit of the doubt. So, for example, if you're filling out an application and you forgot to put in your middle initial or something, okay? They can't come after you and say that you intentionally omitted that information. You get the benefit of the doubt, okay? So that's something that we want specifically written. Okay, so I said everything. Now on the FBI side, and I'll do a separate video detailing on the FBI side, because again, I want to pull the law enforcement duties out of the ATF, basically put them strictly with the FBI because they gotta go somewhere. And again, we're dealing with very slim margins in the Congress, so you gotta be realistic as far as what we can actually get passed. One of the things I'd like to get done is on the FBI side, prohibit 6 a.m. no-knock raids. Okay, that should be explicitly forbidden, unless it's like a situation where somebody has actually killed a number of people already. Okay, so unless it's really a life and death scenario, okay, there should never be 6 a.m. no-knock raids. Okay, it's just like in a lot of places, hot pursuit is illegal. So it's illegal for cops like to chase somebody through city streets at like 100 miles an hour over whatever they ran. Let's say somebody runs a red light and then cops chasing them and they refuse to stop. Okay, the cops can't continue chasing that person in most places through the city streets at 100 miles per hour because there's a good chance that they're going to do a lot more damage, that innocent people might die. They're supposed to break off and then just try to isolate this person. So the same deal should apply here, right? Just like cops can't do 100-mile-per-hour chases through the city streets over, petty stuff, the FBI or any law enforcement agency should not be able to do 6 a.m. no-knock raids where they're kicking down your door and you think you're being home invaded, and naturally you're going to your gun, right? Because you think that you're about to be killed by somebody. That should be prohibited unless it is actually a life and death situation. Okay, so this has to be put into the law at the point where the law enforcement responsibilities are being transferred from the ATF to the FBI. I mean, this would be a good place to just sneak it in there, and it would apply to all FBI applicants. Okay. Strict interpretation of the law on the FBI side, right? So as this thing gets transferred over, the FBI doesn't get to issue opinions. They gotta enforce the law exactly as it was written. Okay, and lastly, same thing I said before on the FBI side, the citizen or the FFL always gets the benefit of the doubt. Okay, so I think that these are some realistic reforms that we can try and enact on the ATF. Abolishing the ATF sounds, makes for a really good headline, right? It makes for really good clickbait, okay, that a lot of people will put out there. But that's not realistic as long as there's still gun control laws in place that somebody has to enforce, right? Because all they're going to do is just going to, if you get rid of the ATF, now all of a sudden somebody else is going to do it, and it's going to be the FBI, and you're going to get stuck with with a more powerful agency, right? A more corrupt agency. So let's proceed in such a way that it actually helps us, not hurt us. Okay. Really quick, I want to mention gun rights agenda that I mentioned in another video, right? So real quick, some things that I think, aside from this that I said here, some things that I think we can actually get done with the slim margin that we have in the Congress right now, right? After this 2024 election, getting suppressors and SBRs out of the NFA. Okay, the reason why this has a really good chance of passing is because it doesn't affect the blue states. Okay, so the blue states aren't going to have that much of an interest in fighting those things, right? They're not going to invest too much political capital in fighting those things. So that's realistic. Okay, getting SBRs and suppressors out of the NFA. National reciprocity. Okay, now one of the reasons I like this is because Trump was a concealed carrier. This is something that he can relate to. Lots of people in the Congress are concealed carriers. So again, this is something that we have a chance of maybe, winning over a couple of Democrats over to our side. Okay, so that's something that I think we can try to get through the Congress. The other thing I want to do is protection for travelers, right? So, for example, if you are traveling across the country, they can't say that they can't say that the gun that you have or the magazine size is illegal. They're going to arrest you and charge you with a felony and ruin your life. Okay, so there has to be better protections for travelers. Okay, what's legal in one state should be illegal in other states. Worst case scenario, they should be able to basically say, okay, this is illegal in our state. We're going to escort you to the border and give you back your property, and you keep your stuff on that side of the border. Okay, so there has to be a protection like that. And lastly, the Hughes Amendment. Okay, we should basically try to repeal the Hughes Amendment, which prevents the production of automatic firearms for the civilian market. They would still have to be registered in the NFA. So again, there's a reason for the ATF to exist. At this point in time, there's no way we're going to win over enough congressmen to completely repeal the NFA. But if we can repeal the Hughes Amendment, and it'll allow for the production of more automatic firearms to be sold and also entered into that registry. One of the things that it'll do is it'll bring down the price, right? Because these things can cost as much as like $30,000 because there's a limited supply out there. But it will also, as more and more produced, it will get automatic firearms into that common use category. Okay, so at some point, because right now I think there's 180,000 of them out there that are on the registry, right? So the bar that was set in the Catano case was 200,000. So if something goes over 200,000, it now becomes a common use item, right? So if we can repeal the Hughes Amendment and get companies pumping out, automatic firearms, we can get it above that bar, get more than 200,000, out there in circulation, and I'm pretty sure that the number will quickly go into the millions. And now we have a separate case to make that these firearms are now common use and they cannot be banned per the Supreme Court. Okay, so I talked about that in another video. I just wanted to kind of refresh that here. So yeah, let me know what you guys think. Okay, I think this makes a lot more sense as far as dealing with the ATF. I think it's going to be in our benefit to proceed this way, where we can actually get something done, rather than say abolish the ATF and it's not going to get done. And even if it does get done and they abolish the ATF, well now, if the FBI takes over, it's probably going to be even worse for us because they're just as corrupt. Okay, so talk to you all soon.